40 years ago.
And I don't have anybody to go, you're fine, we'll do this together.
Britain is a lonely place to live.
It's just a black hole. I feel empty all the time.
We're now one of the loneliest places to live in Europe.
Do we really care what happens next door? Do we really understand what happens over the road?
Most of us don't even know our neighbour's first name.
Nobody would notice if I disappeared, and just feeling like you have nobody to share life with, really.
You kind of look at it and go, well, there's nothing wrong with them, so you turn your back.
Why am I so alone all the time? It feels like fate, doom.
There are people suffering in silence all over the country.
Nobody can tell you how it really feels, because there's no word to express it.
Makes me think of my grandparents, what they went through when, you know, my grandmother lost my granddad, all those times she must have spent at home.
But since he went, I just can't cope.
I'm convinced the answer lies in the community.
We could all make a huge difference here.
So I'm recruiting a few friends to take me back to the communities where they grew up,
And the people.
to find out if a bit of good old community spirit can make a real and lasting difference.
We need laughter back in our lives.
We just have a giggle and that makes it.
It's going to become easier.
More than I expected, really.
Making me happy to know that I'm doing something to help somebody.
In our busy lives, just for 1 minute, just give a damn about somebody else.
The issues around the impact of loneliness in the UK have been making huge headlines lately, and some of the reason for that is down to the campaigning work of the person I'm about to meet. Esther Ranson made the news in 2011 when she wrote an article about feeling lonely. The newspaper article created such a reaction, she set up a charity called Silverline to help tackle loneliness in the elderly. I've come to the headquarters to meet Esther and find out more.
Where did the idea come from?
I found myself living alone for the first time, age 71, not liking it, coming home at the end of a working day to a dark flat, nobody there to make a cup of tea with, no one to talk about my day. So I wrote about it, and I was inundated with response. Some people saying they felt the same, and that it was brave of me to admit to loneliness.
So how would you define loneliness?
I think loneliness is about loss. So for me, it was loss of my husband. And then the children growing up and moving away. And, as I say, living alone for the first time, hating it. Some people have defined loneliness as having plenty of people to do something with, nobody to do nothing with.
I would have never have thought that even now you would ever feel like that.
I find that you can deal with the tough times, you can deal with the work, but it's the happy times you want to share. And I haven't got my husband to share it with.
In its first year, Silverline had nearly 250,000 calls. And I'm beginning to think that the idea of communication is a good starting point for my venture.
People tell us that this is the best way to combat loneliness, is a good chat on the phone. And that's what these people are doing. It's not counselling, it's not blank screen. They're actually having friendship conversations. They're having conversations with people that they really enjoy talking to, and they make that clear. I was talking to a lady who rang in here. She can crochet. I talked to her about how I can't, you know, and she giggled at me. That's what I think we need. We need laughter back in our lives.
I've got this idea, and I'm listening to the conversations that are going on in the background as well, is to actually go to the communities who, some of which have got issues regarding loneliness, and kind of put on a little event and make them all come together. Do you think that's a good thing? Is it?
Yes, I think it's excellent. That gives you something to work towards. I think it gives you a way of celebrating.
It's funny how you piece together, you know, people who had worked together in the past, people who had similar jobs, that kind of thing, and kind of put those jigsaw puzzles together, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. But loneliness can still strike in the middle of the night, so it may not solve everything. But yes.
Every little helps, though, doesn't it?
Every little helps. And they will have plenty of people to do something with. They may not have anyone to do nothing with. But maybe relationships will happen as a result of the event.
Right.
You know,
Meeting Esther and the team at Silverline has inspired me. I'd like to find a way of starting conversations around the country that can bring people together. You can be surrounded by people but still be isolated. Many of us living in cities haven't a clue who our neighbours are, let alone be able to call on them for support. So it seems like a good place to start.
There may be a lot of people in a city, but more people doesn't necessarily mean more people to talk to.
If I can just encourage people to come out from behind closed doors a bit, find a bit of time for those around them, I'm sure friendships will forge. My secret weapon is Olympic athlete Denise Lewis, who grew up in Wolverhampton. She even has the freedom of the city. I'm hoping that bringing her back to her old stomping ground will bring back a few memories.
Great open space, though, isn't it?
It is a great open space. And I just, you know, I ran everywhere. I loved running.
And who knows, she may even recognise a few faces.
So I bet this brings back memories, doesn't it?
Oh, man, I can't believe it.
This is your street.
Wow.
Well, certainly the one that you were brought up on.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it started, I guess.
Now, the streets are similar wherever you go down here. Do you see it's changed much over the years, or...?
Not at all. I mean, it's hard. I think I left about 1980, around there, and I haven't been back since.
So was it just you and your mum living here then?
Yeah.
Tell me about your childhood here.
Yeah, just me and my mum and my little cat.
So how on earth do you get into athletics?
Oh, I don't know. I think my mum's 5'1", and I think I always used to have to run alongside her because she just marches and power walks everywhere.
Right.
I don't know. I think athletics for me was the 1980 Moscow Olympics, which I'd watched in the television on this street, and I fell in love with the whole occasion.
But you know, this I'm assuming used to be the central point of the street, really, the corner shop.
The corner shop was there with all the, you know, your groceries. It was small, but you had everything you needed. We didn't have a telephone, and there used to be a telephone box just there.
Times have changed.
Times have changed. They had a massive Alsatian in there. I remember that. It used to terrorise me every time I went in to go get my milk, and then couldn't wait to get the money and run out again.
That's probably why you learned to run fast, I think, more than anything else. But you live just here.
Oh my goodness!
What's that like, seeing it again?
Just really strange, really weird. I mean, I used to play. Have you heard of Kirby? Do you remember the game with the ball? Simple ball.
I used to live in a village.
Oh,
Go on, what's Kirby?
So you get your ball and you get points. You score points if you hit the face of the curb, and you throw it from the opposite side of the street and try and hit the curb. Gosh, you haven't lived.
I lived on a pig farm. I can tell you I haven't lived. Trust me. Now, but the idea of this, and the idea of what I want you to do today, is to gather some of that community by knocking on a few doors, all right? Now, I've got a few people that I'm going to meet as well, and the idea being that really get that community spirit back together again, something that I think we've lost also. So I want you to knock on a few doors. I'm going to go see a few people, and I'll see you later.
All right.
The truth is, most of us will experience loneliness at some stage in our life. It's an emotion that, however painful, we need to deal with.
Like all emotions, it's there for a reason. It's a feeling, and we can use feelings a little bit like warning lights on a dashboard. Now, when you've got a warning light flashing on your dashboard saying you need to fill up with petrol, what you don't do is take out the bulb. What you do is listen to it and do something about it. So that's what the feeling is for. It's telling you that something is wrong and you need to take action to make it not wrong. To know who we are, we're reflected back in each other. We act as a sort of personal mirror for each other. Like, I know I'm here because you're talking to me. And if I'm talking to myself and there's nothing coming back, it's almost like I'm wandering around without a map, that there's no one to reassure me I am who I am.
Some may choose to be alone, but solitude and loneliness are two very different things. There are different types of loneliness too. A physical loneliness where people may have very little contact with others, and emotional loneliness, where a person may know lots of people but feel that nobody really relates to them. Jules has lived in Wolverhampton all of her life. She's divorced and has no children, but despite having an active work life, she feels empty inside.
So Jules, tell me about yourself.
I grew up in quite a secure family environment with 3 older brothers.
So are your brothers still around, or where are they?
They are. They've all got their different lives, so I mainly see my one brother, Danny. He's 20 years older than me, so he's 70. Sort of work out how old I am from that. And I see him pretty much every day.
And tell me about your parents.
Boating family, born and raised on the canals. And I had my mum most of my life until 2009. Because you lost your dad at a young age, you depend on your mum a lot more? I did do. She was my best friend, my mum. So she gave substance to my life. She loved me unconditionally and accepted me warts and all. Tell me the circumstances around your mum. Mum had dementia in the end. She was 86. When she passed away then in 2009, I had nothing else to move on to reshape and reform my life. And my life was just a different dimension altogether. How different are you now to what you were before 2009? It's because of what you didn't know didn't hurt you. And being left in life at an early age, it's like, I always use the analogy, it's like having a hole here And before, things could fill that hole. And when you've got nothing to fill that hole, it's like walking around like a donut. And nothing fills that hole. Nothing is good enough. When you're by yourself at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, those are the worst times for me. Not knowing what to do with myself when I'm awake. It's a long night. It's like being in a bubble. When you're by yourself, your thoughts do race.
Do those thoughts change as you get older?
Yeah, because it makes you think of your own mortality and where you are in your place in the world and what you've done. You know, not being a mum and not having kids. Again, it makes that hole bigger. It's something to show for your life. It gives you a reason to live for with children. And that they give your life substance. You're thinking for them rather than yourself.
Is that worse because you've got more time to think about it? Because you're in an area like where you are, where you see it a lot more?
It does, and especially, it's more night times than the weekends. Your demons, you know, your thoughts. I don't think it's a midlife crisis. I think you're missing those opportunities that other people seem to have had. And you do think, well, why haven't I had those opportunities? I know it sounds like you could feel sorry for yourself. You know, maybe I do, but why not? Why shouldn't people feel sorry for themselves in a way? You just feel like you've disappeared somehow.
I mean, you say that you feel like you disappeared. What do you mean?
At the end of the working day, when I get in my car, you're left with yourself. You're left with your own thoughts. There's nobody to go home to. There's nobody there. And you take that for granted, having somebody there. Not that you want them, it's not like you're codependent and you're relying on them. But I think it's just to do with love, actually. And that's what you feel is missing. It's having a significant other in your life with you. You feel like you've dissolved, like you're trying to find something tangible, somebody to go to. It's just a feeling as though you don't want to be here anymore.
You see, the story of Jules is actually quite fascinating. It could happen to anybody, your friend, your next door neighbour, anybody that you meet on the street. Because on the outside, they seem normal, they seem content in their life because they keep themselves busy. But let's face it, loneliness can happen to us all. Do we really care what happens next door? Do we really understand what happens over the road?
Meeting Jules has really got me thinking. I always believed that loneliness was an issue for older people. But now I've met Jules, someone who's in her 50s, I'm realising that it's more widespread than I could have imagined. But I also know that across the country, there are organisations who can help people tackle their feelings of isolation. Loneliness is not something to be ashamed of. Often the hardest thing is recognising it.
The things that cause your loneliness may not be the things that cause or make me feel lonely. You know, it is about an approach and looking at ourselves and ourselves in the context of where we live and work.
There's no quick fix to this, is there?
No, because home can be a really lonely place and our neighbours are crucial. So we all need to sort of, you know, sounds a bit cliche, but be kinder to ourselves but also be kinder to others.
It's not about being nosy as well, is it,
No.
really? It's about understanding other people.
And often people don't realise they're lonely until they've either been in it a long time, which means they've got a long journey back, or they've passed through it, and then they might say that they've been lonely. So to try and get people to identify and talk about their loneliness at the beginning of it, to recognise it, is quite key, because then they could start putting steps in to sort of alleviate it quite quickly.
Is there a particular group that's more vulnerable than others, or does it affect everybody?
I think loneliness affects anybody at any age. You're just at risk of experiencing loneliness between 18 and 34 as you get older.
That surprised me. You know, 18 to 34, when you're looking at that is your prime time of your life.
Childline received 10,000 calls from children experiencing loneliness. So it can genuinely affect anybody at any age. It's not about being needy or asking for help too much, but we really struggle to do that.
Isn't it so often with the case, it's often just a hi, just an acknowledgement?
In some neighbourhoods, they actually said, people will say hello to me, but it never moves past that. So I think just stopping and giving someone the time of day and asking how they are, and genuinely be interested in how they are, is a huge thing. And it's not a lot to ask.
This week, I want to make sure that as well as meeting and introducing people to each other, we can create some contacts that are longer term and rewarding. I'm convinced that behind every door is a great story, just waiting to be told or listened to. And I really hope we can bring the right people together.
Ah!
There is someone home. Hello. See who's it?
Yes.
Hello. How long have you been living here?
Since 1969.
1969.
That's
so
right,
a long
yes.
while.
It is a long while. You was pretty small.
Do you remember me?
Of course, I do.
And how long have you been here?
For 6 years.
6 years?
Yeah, yeah.
How long have you been here?
I've only been here 9 months.
9 months?
Yeah, in
In England? Wow.
Here about 2 months.
And happy on here?
Yeah, so far so good.
I heard a big dog. Hello.
You're right,
Hi,
okay.
I'm Denise.
Denise,
Nice to meet you.
Delighted, absolutely delighted.
I don't know how long you've actually lived here.
21 years.
21 years.
Just over 21 years.
Do you know a lot of people on the street?
Yeah, I know my neighbors.
Yeah?
Across. Yeah, she's a very nice woman. We get on along.
You get on really well?
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
She says I'm a good tenant.
You're a good tenant.
Good neighbour.
Good
like
neighbour.
that. Yeah.
How well do you know your neighbours?
Pretty well, to be honest with you. Pretty well. I used to run a neighbourhood watch scheme about 7 or 8 years ago and sort of interacted with all the neighbours, but both sides, all up and down, I speak to everybody.
On the surface, all seems well, but as Denise probes a little deeper...
So how do you find the street? Quiet? Friendly? 50-50.
Yes, no.
Yes and no?
Yeah, yeah.
There's some people who do keep themselves to themselves, and it's just trying to sort of bring those out the shelves, but...
it's not easy.
No, it's not easy at all. Some people just don't want to speak, but
Yeah.
I'm more than willing.
I know there are still a lot of elderly people on the street.
No, that seems to have changed over the last 15 years or so.
Well, the neighbors that was familiar with, they are passed away. But still, the few is still here. And you know, we say hello to each other and we have a little conversation whenever possible.
When I first come here, there was a bad press about it. But I thought it was just a nice community. It's good.
Friendly?
Yeah, very friendly.
And as Denise discovers, some of the residents do have needs that could be resolved by just communicating with each other.
We live in here and the wife passed away in December.
Why did you stay?
My roots is here and I'm going to stay because the wife, well, it's a long time.
I like relating with people. I mean, I don't enjoy being shut up here on my own most of the time.
Do you feel on your own here? Is that what I'm getting a sense that you feel a bit on your own?
All the time.
A lot of the time.
Though at some point I had the right-hand side weakness. That's from January. I'm still being treated at the moment. But though I can't really do the steering and all that, but my daughter helps me. As you can see, I don't have a telly. I don't have a telly, and I think sometimes you want somebody around, you want to talk to and things like that.
If I go to the allotment and nothing to do, I sit in there, a little shed, and read my paper and pass the time away, you know.
There's loads to be gained from knitting this community together. They just need a bit of a helping hand to get things started.
Well, if you are around today, it'd be lovely for you to come along to the tenants meeting room and meet some of the residents that go there daily. Yeah? Brilliant. See you at 4 o'clock then. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
And really meet the street.
No problem.
If you're free, I'd love you to come along and
Yes,
just meet some of the residents.
Not a problem at all.
See you later. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. All right.
See you shortly. Thank you.
Denise has made a fantastic start to bring people closer together. But I want to get a better grasp of what is happening in today's communities. I also wonder if that thing we all call community just isn't as strong as it used to be. Have we all become a little bit too selfish to care about others?
Because it's never really talked about, we've sort of taken it for granted that relationships just happen. And I'm not just talking about relationships, you know, between two partners. I'm talking about all relationships, you know, all the myriad of acquaintance and relationship you get in a community. I think we've taken that for granted. And we've been looking at other goals other than how we all support each other. We've been chasing status, you know, what job we do. We've been chasing wealth. We've been shopping.
We've become much more individualistic as a society. It's, you know, we're focused much more on what I can achieve rather than collectively what the community can achieve.
You know, we're buying our friends, we're collecting them like postage stamps. If you think of things like Facebook and Twitter, it's all about numbers. It's all about quantity and not quality. And I think this sort of unspoken belief system that seems to be taking society over is causing a bit of a problem. I think we need to get back to basics and really look after our connections.
We're animals, we are meant to run in packs and we're meant to be tribal and be with other people. Our whole survival has been built on that as a species. We no longer think about our neighbours, our families and about community wellbeing. So we think much less collectively than we did before. I think our attitudes have shifted. We've become more individual. For the most part, we're focusing on things that are not going to bring us happiness, but we think that they will. We see lots of wealth on TV, on the internet, things we want to buy. We see TV programmes where people can have instant fame. It's a tiny, tiny number of people, and these aren't the things that would necessarily bring us happiness anyway. It's relationships that bring us happiness, but we now see them as incidental in life. We don't see them as something that we should value and work at.
Now I know that Denise has not done all the doors in a street, but there's one she just can't resist.
This is where I used to live, and I've been wondering whether to knock or not. I can't resist it. Hello. Hello, I'm Denise.
How'd you do?
I'm very well, thank you. I used to live here many, many years ago.
Really?
Yes, I did. And
come on in, come on in.
Oh, this is so weird. So how long have you been here then?
So about 16 years, I think now. Yeah.
Well, I was here during the 70s. Do you mind if I just have a look through?
Come along,
Yeah,
come
you
along.
show me.
Yeah, come along through.
Oh, it's lovely. You've done it lovely. We used to have horrendous wallpaper. I'm sure my mum won't mind me saying it. It used to be purple.
Oh,
You know,
well,
that's
you know that was still on the wall when we moved in '96.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. Horror. I went, oh my God. God.
This is really too weird for me. It is. So what are the neighbours like?
I think now we all keep to ourselves more than anything.
It seems to be the way, no matter what street it is in
Yes,
Britain,
that's
that
right,
people just keep to themselves. They don't interact like they used to.
No, they don't communicate anymore like they used to. You see them and they go, oh, good morning, sort of thing, afternoon, and that's it. Nothing else.
It's been fascinating going into the homes of all these different people, you know, just getting an insight to the type of lives that they lead. I feel really privileged, and I'm quite enjoying having a bit of a nose around as well. There's a real sense of transition on this street. A lot of old generations that have been here for maybe up to 50 years versus a lot of new families moving into the area. And there's a little bit of a disconnection, which I want to try and make a change. And that's what I'm hoping we'll be able to do later on today.
I'm convinced that pulling the community together can only be a good thing. But for some people, their loneliness is so deep, a cup of tea and just a chat won't fix it. Longing for someone to talk to must be a desperate feeling. But having someone close and then losing them is hard to get over. Grief is something that hits us all in different ways. And when your lifelong partner dies, sometimes nothing can fill the gap. Una moved to the UK from Jamaica over 50 years ago and has had many happy years living in Wolverhampton, bringing up her 6 children with her husband. Recently, she's been widowed and is struggling with living alone. Tell me about your late husband.
When I go out, if I'm on the street, go shopping or anything, it's like, you know, when I was coming, he would get the kettle on and he would say, here you are. I said, how do you know that? He says, I can sense you coming. He was a very kind gentleman. He was a nice man. He looks after me.
And what is it that you really miss?
I miss the company. Even just to have a kiss or put your arm around him. I miss that a lot because he was a good cuddler.
It's been 18 months since Una's husband died, but her loneliness is as intense as ever.
Is it particularly evenings that you struggle with?
Daytime it's bad, but nighttime it's worse. It's really bad at night. Because he would sit there, and I'm sitting here, and I'll be here reading, and we talk in the meantime. So it's like coming in here now. I hardly ever used it because it was too much to sit in here by myself. So I'd sit in the kitchen instead. And it just feel as if, oh, it's so empty. The house is as if you talk and you can hear the echo.
Even with family and friends nearby, Una has found it hard to cope with the grief.
You have no reason to go on. There's no reason in your life anymore. It's like you've got no reason to even cook or eat. It's like, what am I living for? You know, so it's like a big void, like, I can't even explain this emptiness that's inside you. It's hollow. Nobody can tell you how it feels, really feels, because there's no word to express it. everything is just dark. As if you're going through a tunnel. You're never going to see the end of the tunnel. It's just dark. Everything is just closed in on you. And you're just going, and there's nowhere out.
It's really difficult listening to stories from Una and to really see the heartbreak that she's going through, and I've got to be honest, right now, I haven't got an answer. If indeed there ever could be an answer.
Grief has a really big impact, and most people say it takes about 2 years for anyone to recover from the loss of a major person in their life. So that's going to have a really ongoing impact in terms of that person you were used to sharing your feelings with. Also, that person who was the support to you has gone. So it has a really big impact, and often people, after about 6 months, can start to get back on their feet and go out and about. But if you are in a bad place, that's quite hard to do. So it can have a longer-term impact in starting to make you feel much lonelier.
But ultimately, are there any real solutions for people like Una?
When I started in my job, people said to me, if you want to help lonely people, you don't say to them, would you like to come and join a club for other lonely people? What you need to say is, what are your skills? What are you good at? Would you mind coming and helping me out? So ask them for their skills, don't ask them if they're lonely, because otherwise your pride, and you'll always say, if you're an older person, I'm sure there are people worse off than me.
One thing that I do know about Una is that she's active in a church. She can cook, sew, and is a wonderful, warm person with a big heart. Nothing, of course, could bring back Una's husband or fill that hole she keeps telling me about. But I reckon Una could also help other people, and that might just do her some good too. There are numerous charities around the UK that are involved with loneliness and its effects. So our intention is to bring together some of those organisations and as many locals as Denise managed to rustle up this morning.
Well, I've done all the door knocking I could possibly do today. Let's just hope everyone turns up.
And what better place to meet than their local community centre, run by Anne Guest, MBE.
Hello, Anne. I'm Denise.
It is. Hello, Denise.
So this really is like the hub of the community.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite impressive. I don't actually remember it being here, because I lived here...
Well, it wasn't here.
It wasn't?
No, it was. This was opened in 1994.
Oh, wow. This is bigger than I thought.
We really needed this sort of place for the elderly, really. Because there's a lot of loneliness out there. It got them out of the shell, in here. We don't turn anybody away. You know, we welcome whoever they are. And we're still going 20 years on. So we're doing something right, are we not?
Well, you've really created,
you know,
a sense of legacy and ownership. As you said, a lot of people got involved in this.
Oh, they did.
The community wanted it.
Oh, they did, very much so. Never been vandalised, ever. Now, that says something to me, doesn't it? Because the community were involved, everybody around here were involved.
And why do you do it? Why? What drives you to be here every day?
Well, I do care for people. And I do, and I don't like seeing people who are lonely and sad. Because as you get older, you lose your friends, don't you? So, yes, I'm here to help people with my team. And I'll tell you now, I love it here, you know, because there's a lot of security and everybody looks out for everybody else.
Some charities, like Silverline, are designed specifically to combat loneliness, but sometimes loneliness is a symptom of other issues. It could be a lack of confidence or motivation. And sometimes getting involved in a charity that helps others can make a huge difference to your own circumstances. Changing Lives is a national charity, and I've invited them along with other local organisations today to meet some of the residents. So, Nicola, tell me about the organisation.
I work for a national charity called Changing Lives. We support vulnerable people, thousands of vulnerable people, every month to make positive changes in their lives. We offer a space for women to come in, develop friendships, to access new activities, new groups, whether that's a shared community lunch where people are sitting and eating together and sharing their experiences, whether it's a parent and toddler group, whether it's a confidence building group, whether it's a group that are looking at rewriting their CVs to help them get back into work.
And here in Wolverhampton, you kind of pinpoint a certain group, women particularly.
Yeah, we're a women's centre in Wolverhampton, and for us, we're that space where women can come in, start to make changes, which then go back and influence the rest of their families and their communities and stuff. But 99% of what we do at the centre is targeting women and their families.
Nicola's come to the event, which seems to be filling up rather nicely.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. We've been on the same street. That's right.
It's going really well in there. Everyone's talking, making friends, some meeting for the first time, which is brilliant. So I'm going to go back in there. It's your son.
Nice to meet you. Please, yeah. This is what was good for these guys to do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known you.
No, it's true. Right, this is my son, and this is my wife. You may have seen my wife before, I think you have.
I'm the guy you normally see walking down the street with the basketball. That's me.
Yeah, I think I've seen you. Yeah.
I'm Julian.
Good to meet you. This is a serious turnout, isn't it? Look at that.
It's been brilliant. Really
You've been knocking on quite a lot of doors, haven't you?
I've done my best.
What an amazing place.
This is Anne.
Anne, nice to meet you.
And she helps. You help run this place, don't you?
I've been meeting some people along my journey. One in particular I want you to meet because I think she'll benefit from this place amazingly, but also has some amazing skills that I think would benefit a lot of the people that come here. So.
That's nice.
Can I introduce you to you?
You can. Feel free.
Follow me. Una, Anne.
Hello, Anne.
Hello.
Introduce
nice to
yourselves.
meet you.
Yes.
You know, with your experience and stuff like that, you might be able to help out here.
Well, yeah. Oh, yes, we have parties here.
I'll leave you a
yes, okay, thank you.
It's really about finding out what's going on for you, where you want to go, and seeing if we can help support you with that.
And we offer volunteer opportunities as well. So if you was interested in volunteering with families or children, that might be something you'd be interested in or developing.
Sounds good, yeah. It's all, do you like cake? And if you tick yes, then you're in.
It's got to be a yes then, really, hasn't it? You don't know what's around the corner, really. It's quite refreshing that there's still people out there, you know, that are able to come together and bring their skills together and their stories together. Do you do music sessions and things like that as well?
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. You can go to a folk night, but it's nice that there's something during the day as well, you know.
That's a good idea.
It's excellent. Well, thank you.
See, I can't say. I could
So if I sort of get the patchwork going, they could carry on, and then the next week...
And they won't be under pressure, would they?
No, they take it home if they want to.
Yes.
If not, they can leave it.
That would be great. And we'll have to set this up ASAP. I'm sure it would go down well, and I'm sure it would.
Okay, yeah.
So, but we need your expertise, really.
Chin covers.
Yeah, cushions.
That room is buzzing at the moment. And I haven't seen that before. It's just an amazing atmosphere in there as well.
Yeah, again, there's one gentleman in there, and I'm not sure if you've seen him, but he's new and felt very much alone. And I've just seen him chatting away, laughing. So I think it's been a job well done.
Well, we're not quite finished yet, so let's carry on. On the surface, it appears to have been a great success. But how has Jules found meeting new people?
More than I expected, really. It's been a fantastic opportunity. Because it's easy to say that you are this island, that you are by yourself, but when you meet other people and you listen to their situation, it does put your own life in perspective.
I sincerely hope that Jules benefits long-term from this experience and builds relationships from the people she's met here today. And as for Una, well, she's already begun a new venture, helping out at the very same centre.
This is my own. I made it myself.
Oh, this is nice.
This
is your personal possession?
This is my personal, yes.
Personal possession?
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Oh, this is nice.
And this was sewn all by hand except for the stitches around it.
Now she's passing on her needlework skills to other ladies from the local community at a patchwork making class.
You pinch the edges.
Oh.
I'll try another one. I'll see if I find one a little bit bigger. They're very good girls to hang out with because they have different experience, and some of them is not just lonely because they've lost loved ones, but they're lonely because they're living on their own. They haven't got other relatives to be around, and they are people who travels as well. So we have a lot in common. It helps my loneliness a lot because I know I'm going out each day and help somebody along the way.
Life is for living.
My husband passed away, yes, but I'm still alive, I'm still here, and it helps to cheer me as well, making me happy to know that I'm doing something to help somebody.
Oh, the Green Hotel along the way. That great big, oh, I love that. Oh, you want to go there, girl? It's lovely.
I will come back and help them because they won't know to finish it. So, and we want to see it on display. So that would be nice.
My trip to Wolverhampton has taught me a lot. Firstly, loneliness can hit anyone.
I think it's just to do with love, actually.
Busy people who we come across every day in our lives could be suffering from loneliness, and we really don't know anything about it.
Nobody can tell you how it feels, really feels, because there's no word to express it.
And just because people are lonely doesn't mean they can't be great company, given the chance.
This was sewn all by hand except for the stitches around it. It helps to cheer me and making me happy to know that I'm doing something to help somebody.
If you yourself are feeling lonely or want to get involved in helping people who feel isolated, you can find all the contact details on our programme website. bbc.co.uk/actionline, or get a pen ready for the helpline number at the end of the programme. There are organisations near you who can help tackle loneliness, and plenty of opportunities to volunteer and help others. But small things can make a huge difference too. Why not take more interest in the people who live on your street and keep an eye out for them? We are stronger together than alone. Next time on Operation Meet the Street, Dave Myers takes me back to his old stomping ground as we visit the streets in Barrow, where he grew up.
You get the sense that there was a huge sense of community here.
I meet a wonderful lady with an amazing past.
So what was the dance troupe you were in then?
Edna Parkinson's dancing troupe.
Do you remember when she was a dancer?
Oh, yeah.
Was she? And we get the community talking and dancing.
And that number to hear a recorded list of organisations is 08000 839 839. Lines are open 24 hours and free from most landlines. Some networks and mobile operators will charge. Or go online to bbc.co.uk/actionline.
Make the most of your Christmas wherever you are. Use the BBC Weather app to stay one step ahead of the weather.
Soak up a little arts and culture.